This lesson is on solving radical equations. So first of all, let's review here. So let's say we have the square root of a number. And if you remember from past lessons that if we square that, then we just have that number, because the square root and the square basically cancel each other out. And the reason why is because if we take the square root of a number times square root of that same number, because that's what square root of n squared means, that a square root of a number times square root of a number is just that number. So really taking the square root of a number and then squaring it cancels each other out basically, and we just have that number. Same way if we had the cubed root of a number, all we'd have to do then is to cube it, and those cancel each other out basically, and then we just have our number. Another example would be 5n, square root of 5n. Once again, if we square it, those kind of cancel each other out, and my answer is just 5n. Alright, so let's start with our first equation. So we have the square root of 5n plus 4 equals 8. So our first step then is we need to get rid of that radical sign, because that's like an exponent. Remember, 5n plus 4 can be written as 5n plus 4, I'll write it over here, to the half power. So when you're following order of operations, that's like an exponent, so we need to get rid of that first in order to solve for n. So what we're going to do then, we're going to square both sides, and you have to square both sides because whatever you do to one side you have to do to the other. So that's one of the rules in algebra to solve for a variable. Those cancel each other out, so then I have 5n plus 4 equals 64, because 8 squared is 64. And then I just have a two-step equation. Minus 4 minus 4, 5n equals 60. Divide by 5, divide by 5, so n equals 12. So that would be my answer. Alright, let's try another one here. So the square root of 2x plus 5 equals 5. Alright, so we're going to have to solve for x, so that means we have to get rid of the radical sign. So we're going to square it, and remember, don't forget to square the other side, the right hand side. The square root and the squaring it cancels each other out. So I have 2x plus 5 equals 25, and then I have my two-step equation. Minus 5, 2x equals 20, divide by 2, so x equals 10. And we'll try one with fourth root. So the fourth root of n plus 5 equals 1. So since it's the fourth root, we're going to have to multiply both sides by 4. We're going to have to take it to the fourth power. Those cancel each other out. So n plus 5 equals 1 to the fourth power is 1, or 1, because 1 times 1 times 1 times 1 is 1. And then you have your two-step equation, minus 5, whoops, sorry about that. I'll get rid of that here. Minus 5, so n equals negative 4. So that would be my answer there. Alright, so now on this one we have square root of 3n plus 1 minus 2 equals 6. Now the minus 2 is not underneath the radical sign. So just like if you were solving for an equation, you have to take care of all the addition and subtraction most of the time first before you can start with anything underneath the radical sign. So I'm going to add 2 to both sides. So the square root of 3n plus 1 equals 8. And now I can find out what the n is by squaring both sides. You cancel out the square root. So then I have 3n plus 1 equals 64. And then I minus 1. So 3n equals 63. Divide by 3. So n equals 21. Alright, now on this one we have 3 times the square root of 3x minus 8 plus 1 equals 7. So once again you have to take care of all the numbers outside of the radical sign, that's underneath the radical sign first. So I have to take care of the 3 that's on the outside on the left and the 1 that's not underneath the radical sign. So I'm going to then subtract 1 minus 1, so then 3 times square root of 3x minus 8 equals 7 minus 1 is 6. Now I have to take care of the 3 that's on the outside there because that's not underneath the radical sign. So then I'm going to divide by 3, divide by 3. Those cancel out because anything over self is 1. So then I have square root of 3x minus 8 equals 2. And then I square it, those cancel each other out. So then I have 3x minus 8 equals 4, because 2 squared is 2 times 2. And then plus 8, 3x equals 12. I'll write it over here to give me some room. And divide by 3, so then x equals 4. Alright, so now on this one we had the square root of 6n minus 4 and 2, sorry about that, that should be an n on there. Alright, so we need to get rid of those radical signs, and they're both square roots. And so we're going to square both sides, and that'll cancel those out. Cancel that out. So then I have 6n minus 4 equals 2n plus 10. And then I just solve for n, get everything on one side, my variables on one side, my numbers without variables on the other side. So I'm going to add 4. So 6n equals 2n plus 14. And then I will subtract 2n minus 2n. So that's 4n equals 14. And divide by 4. So n equals, and 14/4 simplifies down to 7 over 2. And leave it as a fraction, don't put it in a decimal. So 14/4, 2 will go into both of them. 2 will go into 14 7 times, and 2 will go into 4 2 times, so that's why it's 7 halves. Alright, let's try another one of these here. So we have the square root of 2n plus 5, plus 3 is on the outside, so we've already done one of these. So this is just another example, just to give you some practice here. So minus 3, so square root of 2n plus 5 equals 1. And then we're going to square it. So 2n plus 5 equals 1. Minus 5, 2n equals negative 4. And then divide by 2, so n equals negative 2. Now if there would have been something on the left-hand side outside of the radical, after I subtracted 3 to both sides, then I would have had to take that number and get rid of that too, divide by whatever it was. So if there was one right in front of the square root sign, a number, just like the couple slides ago, then you'd have to get rid of that first before you can do anything with the radical sign. Alright, so now we have the fourth root of n squared plus 3n equals the fourth root of 3n plus 36. Alright, so in order to get rid of the fourth root, we need to take it to the fourth power for both of them. Those cancel each other out there. So I have n squared plus 3n equals 3n plus 36. I'm going to get everything on one side. Since I have an n squared there, I need to put everything on one side, and then I'm going to have to factor that. So something was FOILed to get that, and you'll see this in a minute. So I'm going to have to factor that to find out what n is there. So in order to do that, then I'm going to subtract 3n minus 3n. So n squared, 3n minus 3n is 0, and 3n minus 3n is 0, equals 36. And then I'm going to minus 36 because I need everything on one side. So n squared minus 36 equals 0. And so if I'd factor that, I'd have n plus 6 and n minus 6 equals 0. So now I have to figure out what n is. So I can take n plus 6 equals 0 and n minus 6 equals 0. So then I would minus 6, so n equals negative 6, plus 6, plus 6, so n equals 6. So n equals negative 6 and 6 on there. Now if you wanted to, you could have gone to, and I'll put that right down here, or excuse me, not that one there. We'll get rid of that there. This right here, since I have n squared equals 36, if I would take the square root of that and the square root of that, because remember, whatever you do to one side, you have to do to the other. And the reason I did that, because I'm squaring something, if I take the square root, that cancels out that there. Then I have n equals the square root of 36, and the square root of 36 is 6 and negative 6. Because 6 times 6 is 36, and negative 6 times negative 6 is 36. So you could do it that way too. So either way, you've seen both ways in the past in Algebra 1. So you can do it either way and you'll get your answer there. So go back, look at the examples again, like I've always said. Take your time on those, make sure you understand each step, listen to it more than once if you need to. Go back, rewind, stop, and think about it, and just take your time.